So, have any of you participated or even perhaps been the one to do it? You know, where you stand and you have somebody behind you catch you? So, if you did do that, or if you've watched that, you've noticed that whoever's going to fall back, they always look back, make sure there's somebody behind them. Or even when they do decide to go ahead and fall back, they still take a few steps back to get a little closer to that person behind them before they fall. So that's where I'm leading into tonight, because what that requires is you have faith that you're going to be caught. So the verse I want to talk about tonight is 2 Corinthians 5, verse 7, which is, for we live by faith, not by sight. Now, those of you who have been with me the last 2 times I've been up here probably are saying, man, he is stuck in Corinthians, because I was in 1 Corinthians the first night I was here, and then last time I was 2 Corinthians also, and again tonight I'm back to 2 Corinthians. Yeah, I do have a fetish for Corinthians, I guess, but anyway, this verse I thought, and another reason this verse spoke to me is because here it is, we're in the 7th day of a new year. So I think this also can apply for us going forward into the new year, which is we live by faith, not by sight. Now, followers of Jesus are to live by faith. The question is, faith in what? Now, those of you who have been with me the last couple of times know I like to have participation. I don't want to be the one talking the whole time. So again, the question is, faith in what?
Faith that he's in control of all things.
In short, Jesus. That's exactly right. Though we've never seen Jesus, we do place our hope in him, and we center our lives around what he does for us. We live by faith. So Hebrews 11:1 describes faith this way. Now, faith is confidence in what we hoped for and assurance about what we do not see. Now, this is the calling of Christians, to cling to the hope that we have in Jesus. Things do not always look good. There are days that might be difficult with suffering, but rather than look at instead of looking at what we see, we need to be looking at what's unseen to live by faith. So the second part of that, and also let me back up for just a minute. That part of the verse throughout the years has actually been used and abused to live by faith. Does anyone can think of an example of someone using to live by faith? Well, what came to my mind was when somebody quits a job without having a job. Have you ever heard anybody say, I trust God's going to find something for me? You know, they're thinking they're living by faith. But I think we all know, and well, an old adage I've heard from years ago was, you know, God is not going to help you if you don't help yourself. You know, he'll help you, but you kind of got to help yourself too. He's just not going to lay it out there for you. Excuse me. Which reminds me of something that you all may have heard this in a different version, a different way. But this is the way I heard it many years ago. Speaking of living by faith, a woman had lost a job and she didn't have difficult finding another job, and therefore and all of a sudden she's about to lose her house, and so she started praying to God and she's saying, please help me to win the lottery so I can keep my home, feed my kids, clothe my kids. And this went on and on for a while, and eventually she did lose her house. And so she eventually cried out to Jesus to God and said, why have you forsaken me? I've lost everything. All I've asked for is just to win the lottery so that I can keep my home and feed my kids and clothe my kids. And she finally heard God. And that's another Bible study, hearing God. That's another time. She finally heard God. And he heard him say, "You have to buy a ticket." There you go. You have to help yourself if you want him to help you. I know you're thinking, "Oh, that's a bad one." I get it. So, but anyway, that's something I heard years ago, and I just kind of stuck with me. But moving on to the second part of that verse, not by sight. To live by sight is to look at things to do around us. And we center our lives around the here and now. So now this is not how the followers of Jesus should be. We have to fight the urge to look at what's around us. We have to, we need to believe in what we cannot see. And we need to center our lives around what Jesus has done for us. So we need to look past the things that might seem to appear, and instead of looking towards what God is teaching or showing us. So again, another, also when we say live by sight, another translation could be live by not what we see. So now to go with that, there's three areas that we could look at when we use this verse, because to live by faith we have to have hope that Jesus gives us. But again, that's easier said than done, obviously, because after all, we're surrounded by sickness, suffering, tragedy. So it's easy to lose sight. I think we all have experienced that at some point in time. It's difficult to stay on track. But 2 Corinthians 5:7 helps us with that. We need to learn to live by faith, not by sight. But there's ways to do that. One way to do that is don't fixate on what you see, because it's easy to focus on what's happening around us, obviously, and to think, and that's all we think about is what's there. But when things take a turn for the worse in our lives, it's tempting to think everything is falling apart. And it's natural when things are, happening in our lives and it didn't go exactly the way we wanted to, or something unexpected happened. It's easy to feel like, things aren't going and life's just, bad. But again, that's just a natural feeling. But as followers of Jesus, we have to focus on the fact that he's with us and take a different approach to life. So then rather than focus on what's happening around us, we have to have the faith that he's with us, because certainly God doesn't want us to feel that. He cares deeply about us. So and what we're going through. So we shouldn't discount our struggles. Not necessarily that we need to embrace them. I'm not trying to say that either. What I'm saying is we don't need to let our circumstances dictate us. We have to live by the faith and not by the appearance of our circumstances. And of course, again, that's easier said than done. I'm well aware of that. But to live this way, what's the way you think that we should live by faith? How should we live by faith? What would keep us grounded, if you will? Exactly. Spending time with God in prayer, reading the Bible. That's what we should need to prioritize to keep in our faith. We have to spend time with God, and we need to find people to walk with. Okay, not just by ourselves. Because if we just do it on our own, we'll continue to struggle. That's why we need other people to help us walk through life. And that's just as important, to be honest with you. That's why it's great to have a church family, because we all have each other. We all love each other, and we care for each other. And so we all need to open up our hearts with each other when we do have struggles, knowing that someone else is in our family, our church family, or our own family, immediate family, that's there for us. Again, if you've ever experienced trying to do it on your own, you absolutely know you just can't do that. It just won't. It just doesn't work. Another way to keep keep focus is keep your eyes forward. So instead of fixating on current circumstances like I've talked about, we should keep our eyes forward. Has anyone in here run track? Not now, of course. I meant if you do it now, great. But I mean, back in school, did you run track? Tim? Oh, David. Okay. Well, definitely not now, I'm sure. But when you was running, if you was running, you didn't look behind you. What would happen if you looked behind you? Slows you. Well, that's one thing because you're not looking ahead. You could trip, sure. But if you're looking behind you, it slows you down also. So that's why you want to stay focused ahead. Now, speaking of keeping, when I was reading through this, keep your eyes forward. Also, you can say keep your eyes focused on God. And there's a prime example in the Bible of when that happened. We all know this very well. When did that happen? Keep your eyes on God. And what happened when they didn't keep their eyes on God? Who am I talking about? Peter, when he was walking on water. When he was looking straight at Jesus, he was walking on water. The moment he took his eyes off Jesus, he sank. So again, keeping eyes forward, keeping eyes focused on him. So, and that's why we need to keep eyes on the prize. What is the prize? What is the prize that we strive for? Heaven? Yes, eternity. That's our prize. That's what we need to stay focused on. Be in his presence, absolutely. So, but, even though that's, again, and I've said it already, easier said than done, if we look back, if we keep looking back at what's happened to us or what's happening around us, we can forget what Jesus done for us. And then we start living by sight. Once again, we forget to live by faith. We start living with what's around us. So keep your eyes forward. And then, of course, remind yourself of the truth. Now, again, this isn't easy in life. So, Jesus promised us what he's promised us, that he would be with us, and that only in him would life, and only in him is truth found. And we know that. We hear that, and we study that. We live it, to be honest with you. And so, in order to live by faith, we must continually remind ourselves what is true. So, now it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that, what Jesus has done for us. Again, with things that's happening in our lives. It's easy to forget the hope and joy that we can have in him. It's easy to shift to what the world tells us. I mean, right now, there's a lot of conflict in the world. So, we keep hearing, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. No, we don't know what's going to happen. But we, as Christians, we have faith of what's going to happen. And that's what we trust in. So we can't dwell on the fact what might happen in the world around us or what's happening at this point in time. So we have to always remind ourselves what God has done for us. And that means we're to regularly spend time with God, as we've talked about before, spending time with him through prayer, through our studies. And it's the only way to live by faith. So, what are some other examples you can think of to keep us focused? I've mentioned, staying fixated, keeping your eyes looking forward, reminding yourself what's true. What else can we do? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Any others? Any others that you felt in your life that you felt that when you wasn't looking, strugglings were happening to you, and you realized that, if you didn't have your eyes focused on God, that it wasn't working very well for you. So I think in the ministry that we have started on Friday nights and will truly begin in this Friday night, I think we'll hear a lot of stories about that, and we got to remind the folks that we have coming here to where the focus should be, and they can't dwell on what's around them or what they've seen or what they're seeing, even as they come in here. They have to stay focused on what is true and and the faith in God and how to use Him in their life. Anything else? Anything else that you can share? This went a little quicker than I thought it would. I apologize. I got planned better.
I'd say just knowing who God is,
Mm-hmm.
His power is. I can't say that I've never prayed for healing because I have,
Mm-hmm.
but I pray more than that just for His will. And if healing's not in His will, that's what I want. Knowing that God can control whatever happens to us, and we can just be at peace with that. He's going to do what's right for us. If that means taking us tonight or taking us 20 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have our best interest and His best interest in mind. I want to do whatever's going to glorify and honor Him.
That's absolutely.
That's what I say.
Yep. That's so true, and I think we all can attest to that in some form or fashion in our lives, how things that have happened, we've just got to truly surrender and believe that we don't understand, and we all know that. We don't understand. We don't understand why we all just don't have perfect lives, but it's just not that way. We can't understand why we have struggles, why we have sickness, why we have tragedies that happen in our life. But we do know God has a plan. And it's one day we'll understand. When we see Him, we'll understand. He'll explain it to us. This is why I did what I did. And it'll all make sense at the time. But right now in our lives, it doesn't make sense at times. And but again, that's the faith we have, that we know that it's all going to be all right.